As the engineer Jose Rivero said, we must know the environmental management has always been of great concern to the professional, but has recently had more relevance or importance.
The idea of civil engineers is to identify which are the causes that generate an environmental impact. It is possible that from the introduction of any civil element to the nature it generates significant consequences with immediacy. The problem lies in how we share alternatives to reduce the impacts generated.
We asked Engineer Riveros how is begin contributing the civil engineer to the care of the environment. He tells us that the solution of this problem should be an important aspect from the design, management, until the construction. The way in which we manage the water resource, the structure, is our responsibility. The engineer must try to be the friendliest possible with the environment. In all cases, we consider the use of different techniques which counteracted some effects.
Mr. Riveros mentioned a variety of related techniques that counteract the effect caused has sometimes to do with the care of natural resources such as water. He assured that water is a clear example of natural resource that, when it comes into the contact with the daily life of the human beings, becomes a cycle in which is the most cause. It is wasted of contaminate. The main objective of the civil engineer is to treat these resources, purify them and restore them, promoting the good use is the resource.
Regarding the issue of hydroelectricity and its negative impact in the environment, Mr. Riveros was too clear saying that more than the 80% of the consumed energy in Colombia is generated by hydroelectric plants. The operation of those plants depends directly in the conservation of the water resource. Traditionally, those projects have as a concept for the investment and environmental management for project everything related to water.
Bailas, we asked the engineer about if he has any matches for the future Tomasinos engineers, and it was what he said.
The civil engineer has an obligation to care the environment, the way we treat the planet and its different resources, as forests, rivers, oceans, water deposits, or soils. The purpose and profile of a graduate engineer Tomasino is to search solutions and improve the quality of life of human beings. More than professionals, we must be people who serve society and we adapt to the regulations that have the function of protecting our planet.
About the environment friendly and unfriendly products that are used in civil engineering. We talked with Elkin Tapero, civil engineer specialist in materials and appraisals, and he told us about materials of construction in pro and in opposition to the environment.
Now in the construction field, work is in progress with brick recycled, the engineer said. The recycled bricks have started using for collaborating with environment and are done by plastic second-hand bottles. Residues of mining industry, alkaline batteries or help to make more ecological bricks. With this on expects to reduce the environmental pollution.
And what about the waste? Are some of it used in your field? The engineer tells us about the use of fronts based on corks by wine. These are used that a very useful tool to reduce the noise at the time. It reduces the use of wood, which helps the environment, avoiding the felling of trees.
Also Mr. Tapiero tells us that one of the most strong strengths in the construction of structures in Walwa. He said, Walwa has rapid growth, resistance, and flexibility because of it has turned in a very useful material that in addition does aesthetic constructions. Finally, we cannot leave outside the ecological cement. Something is that is very used in the construction, but that of the last time has started making from the process in crushed of the cane of sugar of help and because of it reaching to environment.
About the mistakes that don't help to the environment, he said that approximately the half of the materials used in the field of the constructions comes from terrestrial bark, which produce annually millions of tons of residues product of the demolitions and extractions. He highlighted the use of the steel and the aluminium. These are used in the structural part and are very good, but lamentably their manufactured needs of high energy consumption, and this contaminate the atmosphere.
Also, he talked about a very common product, the cement. He said that the cement needs of a lot of energy for his manufacture. In addition, it's potentially risk for the health. We asked him, would the plastic be in the future used as material of water supply and drainage?
Mr. Tapiro said, I will say that not. To construct networks of aqueduct and drainage systems, the properties of the plastic should be improved. In other words, return to the factory and to mix with other products. This means the energy will be much more. All plastics ones are derived from the oil. I think that the environment impact is not necessary to explain of this one product.